Evening, everybody. Hopefully we're starting on time. Welcome to the Thursday, May 2nd Marine Advisory Board meeting. Appreciate everybody coming. We have a full house. Hopefully even more folks will show up. Some exciting stuff, some feel-good stuff, and let's get to work. As it turns out, we were reminded that elections are due. Your chairman and vice chair are up for election each year. So first, if I may, let's have a roll call, please.
Absolutely. Tyler Janelle.
Here.
Robin Chiarelli. Jason Dunbar.
Here.
Barry Flanagan.
Here.
Robert Franks.
Here.
Elizabeth George.
Here.
James Harrison.
Here.
Brewster Knott. John Lynch.
Here.
Norbert McLaughlin.
Here.
Joelle Norvell.
Here.
I know that Mr. Wiggles and Walker are not here. No? Okay. Robert Washington
Here.
and Chair Whitten.
Yes,
Present.
thank you.
Did you have a forum?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to toss this to our dear friend Andrew Cuba to head up the election.
Okay, as you know, we need a motion for the chair, a separate motion for the vice chair. So there are motions for electing the chair.
Make a motion to elect the chair as Steve.
Second.
Second.
We'll do it.
Certainly. Just one moment, please.
Okay, take your time.
believe the motion was by Mr. Harrison and seconded by Lynch, correct?
Yes.
Righty, roll vote on the election of Chair Whitman. Tyler Brunel,
Yes.
Jason Dunbar. Barry Flanagan,
Yes.
Robert Franks,
Yes.
Elizabeth George.
Yes.
James Harrison,
Yes.
John Lynch,
Yes.
Norbert McLaughlin,
Yes.
Noel Norvell,
Yes.
Robert Washington,
Yes.
and so unanimous.
I have to abstain.
Yes.
Thank you very much, folks. We need to do the same thing with vice chair. Do we have
Motion.
I'd like to
Motion.
make a motion that Jimmy Harrison is vice chair. Elizabeth
Second.
George, second, please. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Absolutely. Just one moment. Tyler Brunel,
Yes.
Robin Chiarelli. Present. Present, okay. The vote is for vice chair. Nominating.
James
James Harrison.
James Harrison.
Vice chair.
Nominating.
Oh, I apologize.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Jason Dunbar,
Yay.
Barry Flanagan,
Yes.
Robert Franks,
Yes.
Elizabeth George.
Yes.
James Harrison,
Yes.
yes.
I believe so.
John Lynch,
Yes.
Yes.
Norbert McLaughlin,
Yes.
Noel Norvell,
Yes.
Edward Williamson, Mr. Washington,
Yes.
and Steve Whitman, who made the motion.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Unanimous on-
teams back together. Let's move forward. The, first thing is approval of minutes. I don't know, I thought somebody mentioned they had a question on minutes, but, does anybody have a question,
I
please?
do,
Jason?
yeah, just a review of last minutes. I went through the roll call for last.
Thank you for that.
So noted.
If anybody doesn't have an issue, I'd like to request that we approve the minutes from last month. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Jason, second, please.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. So we're going to start with waterway, crime and safety. Okay, bear with me a second. So we have Sergeant Travis O'Neill. Last month, the situation was slightly different. Many of you who might have been here, the crane collapsed over Third Avenue. So unfortunately, the sergeant was not able to come. Terrible situation. And the chief was kind enough to come, so we did spend a few minutes with him. Again, a little different start from April's meeting. What's new and exciting? What's upcoming?
So I'll give you March and April for this meeting.
Thank you.
since we missed March. In the month of March, we had the Florida Police Marine had 112 calls for service. Of those 112, 11 of those were accidents. All the accidents were either minor or no injuries. The Marine officer wrote 36 citations. Calls of note for March at the Hilton on 17th Street. Our officers recovered a stolen boat that was stolen from the city of Boca. Not the city, but someone who lived in Boca Raton and believed to be used in a smuggling operation. And the officers recovered it there. And Boca's crime scene came out and were able to process it and find some good prints on it. So hopefully they've got a suspect for that. Also, at 3 Isla Bahia, there was a burglary of a vessel, fishing supplies to taken. The boat had video cameras on it, so we're able to get a video of the suspect. And that was sent up to the, boat was also processed and video was sent up to the detective bureau for follow-up. Anybody have any questions about March? About April? We had 155 calls for service in April. 5 of those calls were accidents and we wrote 38 citations. I went through the incident reports today, as I always do. Didn't really find anything of note. There was no burglaries. Nothing real big happened of note for April. We've been full air show mode. this month, trying to get ready for that, which is next weekend. So that's what we've been doing besides our normal.
So there's no special preparations for the air show, obviously. Do you hope for bad weather, good weather, keep the boats off the seas, et cetera?
It's a double-edged sword. So if it's good weather, then it's easier to work, but there's a lot of boats. If it's bad weather, you're out there, bad weather, but there's less boats. So a little bit of both.
So definitely, as I shared, one of my favorite events here, and no doubt the Coast Guard, police, et cetera, flat out. So thank you very much for the support with that. Anything else? Anybody have questions? Sorry.
Do we have some pictures?
Pictures? Yeah, we were talking about, again, the continued discussion of legal dockage and the alcohol boat at the sandbar and a variety of things. So we'll follow.
Yeah, I'll select just a couple notes. So we have been working probably every weekend with our fine friends of the Coast Guard. They've been going out on our boats, we're doing charter inspections. And we've managed to shut down a lot of illegal charters. So hopefully that trend is going to continue. And try to get a hold on all these illegal charters that are running through the city. So they're definitely seeing us out there, seeing the Coast Guard on the boat, they're seeing them stop. I know at one point we stopped one of those Duffy electric boats, which quite frankly goes under our radar a lot. You know, it's usually just, it's like a nice couple or family out there and they're, you know, going slow, but we stopped one and they did not have what they should have. They were not underneath the right licensing, everything. The Coast Guard was shutting down the whole business. They called the owner and shut down all of his Duffys. As just they weren't in compliance with a lot of stuff. So it's been working really well for that partnership with us and Fort Lauderdale, some guys from Sector Miami. And we're able to shut down a lot of these illegal charters.
This is a real balance for us. You know, we can't sometimes always communicate, but we get communication back and forth. And the balance is that folks come here for vacation, as we've talked about. They want to go on the party barges. They come to use the water taxi and everything else. So we got to try to figure out how to help them. So thank you again, and we'll continue this discussion. Anybody else, Jim?
How are you doing with recruiting as far as, and how many open spots do you have on the Marine?
I don't have I don't stay up on that, you know, but I know the last I heard we had 40 open positions in the department. I will say this, I've worked here for 16 years and this is the most heavily recruiting I've ever seen us do. As far as the chief, you know, putting manpower, time and money into recruiting. I know that we have oral interviews several times a week, every single week. That's the first step. You put your application in, and as long as you meet the requirements, you automatically get an oral interview. So I see those are going out every 2-3 times a week. We have them. So I think we're getting a good candidate pool. So hopefully our numbers will be back up.
What about specifically for the Marine unit though?
We're at 7 officers and myself. For the short term, I would love to get one extra person because I have 2 squads, and if I could get 4 and 4, then that would really help me out right now. If we were going to add officers, add like an evening shift or that kind of thing, that would probably need 6 extra officers. I'll probably need a few extra boats. But that probably won't come. I know the chief wants to do that. He's very big on keeping the waterway safe and having us out there. But it's got to trickle down from patrol. Once patrol is fully staffed, then we can start seeing trickle down into the special units, which is what we are.
Are you currently able to take advantage of any of MLake?
Yeah, we do.
You are,
Yeah.
okay,
Yes, we do. I have a guy working on it right now.
okay.
So, but that's a volunteer basis because it's overtime.
Yeah.
But all my guys, for the most part, take advantage of, including myself, take advantage of MLake patrol. So we do have someone out at night, but it's not like someone's scheduled for it. It's a volunteer basis.
All right, thanks.
So thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have the sergeant here, and we will definitely see him on the water with the with the air show. I'd like to take a second if I can. If everybody notices, Andrew's on really good behavior here. And the reason being, and he's smiling, is because Andrew's boss, Carl Williams, is here. Carl Williams, Carl, will you introduce yourself? Stand up for a second. Carl is Director of Parks and Rec, and he is gracious enough to join us because we said we'd like him to see where the sausages are made, and this is where they're made. So, Sergeant, when you're talking about needing more folks, et cetera, you're not necessarily talking to deaf ears. There are people here that are listening to you, and Carl is certainly one of them. So, Carl, thank you for joining us. I won't put you on the spot if you want to say anything, but you're welcome to join the conversation anytime.
Thank you.
That is very much. So that brings us to the item 5, which we refer to as discussion United States Coast Guard. It goes on, exchange of ideas. I'm going to take a second and introduce, and I'm also going to apologize because we had some names wrong and I spelled wrong. Basically, I screwed this whole thing up. So we're going to work through this. We originally, Lieutenant Ben Adrian, you guys are familiar with him, has been an important part of the waterfront in Fort Lauderdale, and introduce him in a second. Commander Dale Chrisman had spent time with us on the boat, et cetera. I think his eyes opened wide when he came up, not able to make it. Instead, we have Captain Frank Florio. Captain, thank you for joining us. And we have, and I screwed Sean up, it's actually Sham ATN. Sham, will you guys get up, please, and just so we can say hello to you all. So this is Lieutenant Ben Adrian, who's shipping up to New Orleans. The captain came up to Sector Miami to join us for a quick roundtable discussion, and Sham is our new guy. So if you want to join the table for a few minutes, come on, pull up for a second, and let's have a brief discussion with you, if you don't mind. Let's grab some chairs here, please.
I know, they're like, oh, we thought we could hide in the back.
Just squeeze in. So while we're finding chairs, I want to take a second and give you a little background on Lieutenant Ben Adrian. Ben has been here for 3 years. I was able to dig into some of his history and found out that he actually had an interest on the water at a very young age. That was the captain's hat, etc. And then, he had a passion for the water, growing up near it. And got two.
My son looks just like that.
And as he got older, he was still attracted to the water, still pointing off to places unknown. Same hat, if you notice. Number 3, Ben has received many accolades during his time in Fort Lauderdale. Most folks think of him as a calm, mild-mannered guy, which he has been. I do want you to know, however, there are those of us who know Ben and realize there's a really tough side to him. So with that, we want to thank Ben for his tenure here. That does look a little bit like that. We want to thank Ben for his tenure. Congratulations, 3 years in South Florida. We wish him nothing but the best in the future. The MAB did get a little gift for Lieutenant, which unfortunately is tied up in UPS overnight shipping. So it'll be delivered to him, and we'll take pictures and share with all of you. So thank everybody for that contribution to Lieutenant Adrian. And with that, I'd like to open up a brief discussion, and it's going to open up to the floor. I mentioned when Commander Cressman came up, we took Ben and I think Ed Wright was with us. I'm not sure. We took a ride up the New River heading west up to the Bradford Yards. Patience was with us, etc. I'm going to say that Commander Cressman's eyes went like this when he got up to the yards by Bradford, etc. To see the amount of dolphin pilings that are intruding into the water, to see the amount of boats that are wrapped up. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So we don't use the term moratorium. We have a moratorium that's going to be in play, and we are reimagining the river. Part of that, I'm going to show you a video that Bob Franks put up, but part of that is your assistance. We need assistance understanding. We have a bathymetric study that Patience is either kicking off shortly or is in process. I assume that could be shared, etc. And we want to work with you guys. So we've got a year to work through our current reimagining the river. Chom, if you haven't spent time, love to spend time taking on the river, showing you issues of concern to us. We have friends here. Let's open up discussion. I want to talk about navigation. I want to talk about clean water. I want to talk about anything we have on our mind that might be of issue with the Coast Guard while we have them here. And I think that, let me take a second and show you a video. Bob, let's whip through this.
Okay.
That is, what are we? Eight. So this is a video that, and I'm gonna let Bob speak. We're short of time and crazy, etc. But that's not it. That's not it. You don't want to.
Everybody's seen it.
Everybody's
Yes.
seen it.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Yeah, basically it's a,
Bob, stop for a second. So when we met last time and we talked about New River, one of the things that was of interest to us was understanding how we maintain the 60-foot channel that we need for navigation. Then you guys are willing to, certainly chime in if you want. But we tried to maintain 60-foot wide channel because we know that's the bridge width. So what Bob did was basically put a fake barge on the river. Proportions aren't perfect, but you get a pretty good idea of some of the issues we're going to have navigating a barge. And with that, go ahead.
well, you go ahead and start the video. It's pretty obvious, about 3.5 minutes. It kind of shows how the river winds around here. And the green is a barge that's 150 feet long with a tug on the front and a tug on the back. For a total length of 210 feet, 50 feet wide. And this gives you an idea of what that barge has got to do going up the river. And the 3 red lines represents a 60-foot channel.
It's safe to say there's not a lot of room to maneuver in some of those areas, and these are our well-identified hotspots.
Not a lot of room. Yeah, now, one thing you'll notice if you're actually on the river, there are places you have to stop. You got passing zones, you got the Jungle Queen coming at you. You got the railroad bridge, you got to stop, I don't know how many times an hour for the train. You have wide areas like that, then you have very narrow areas, curvy areas like Little Florida here. And there's no way that you're gonna keep a large vessel inside a 60-foot channel in that area. Basically, all this data is on Google Earth. Once we get a bathymetric survey, that data can be put in this same graphic here to see exactly where the bottom contours are and where the channel is. So that'll give us more information to be able to make some decisions about how we should manage this. That area just bypassed was the Wiggles. Now we've got Davy Bridge. And there's an area coming up here where on the right side, you can see where a dock has been placed 25 feet out from the seawall of a large yacht. And this area up here, LMC, from here on, lots of big boat yards. You get an idea of the size of some of the yachts. And coming up to the I-95, that's a real narrow spot right there, trying to get right into that bridge. And one thing the mayor mentioned a couple of months ago is that the river stayed the same size, but everything else has been growing. So we're getting a lot of encroachment, a lot of growth, and we've got to find some way to be able to maintain the waterway and manage the growth. Now, from Bradford Marine on out west here, this is out in my neighborhood. You can see it gets even narrower and it's even tighter, especially on the left side there. The seawall there is not on the property line. It's about 20 feet from the property line. So some of those boats are going further out than maybe they should. But one of the keys is how do we get a barge 150 feet long, 50 feet wide, with 2 tugboats out, out the river, up and down the river. FPNL needs to have that capability to rebuild the seawalls. We need that capability for all the commercial traffic. We need that capability. So we need to figure out how to do it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened, I think, with the board, it really was roughly a year ago when we started talking. I mean, we talked about the moratorium for some years, but effectively, we drew a line in the sand, and you could see why. If this continued, Ben, you spent enough time up there, et cetera. I'm not putting any of you guys on the spot, but it's safe to say we have major issues there. Excuse me. Are there special initiatives and anything special you guys are working on? Anything special you could share with us? Anything we can do to assist you? Just give us some idea of what you guys are.
Absolutely. Thank you. We've been working with MIA for about a year or so on this discussion right here. Exactly. My department is prevention. So my job is to have foresight to see these kind of issues and think about what's going to be the impacts on the road. It's very obvious that vessels are getting bigger, becoming more vessels on the water, waterways being encroached on by every angle there is. Rail, vehicle, every kind of traffic in there is impacting us. And there's tools we have as the Coast Guard and the federal agency to assist here. We can do a regulated navigation area. We've done things similar in the past. Especially in Miami, we have a regulated navigation area that restricts the width that boats can impede that channel. And I see this kind of going down that road. That'll be at the request of the river and the stakeholders. We engage that. That's not something that we're going to come in as the Coast Guard and propose anytime. It'll involve traffic studies, vessel traffic studies. It'll take a lot of effort to get that regulation in place. There'll be public meetings, comment periods, discussions like this right here drive that. That's why this is really important on our end, have these relationships and partnerships in these areas. Things, patients and I work really closely together. This has been something that I've been monitoring for a while. Definitely see a need here. We're happy to help on our end. It's see the regulated area. I think that would be a good play here. We definitely open the discussion.
What about just on the coastal in general? Any recommendations there? Anything special we can do whatever we should be doing?
Coastal in general.
Intercoastal versus a new river. We've been talking specifically about the river, but we obviously have 1,000 intercoastal here, and we don't want to forget that as well.
There's a lot there. We have ATOM that we're responsible for the waterways. There's always dredge projects going on in the coastal, port expansion project going on. Port Everett is a perfect example of that, right? A huge initiative there. So those are conversations that we can be having, not only with the port and their partners, but with the stakeholders that are using the waterway around it. It helps us provide informed recommendations and take educated actions. That way we have a big picture of what's needed and best way to go forward with it. The Harbor Safety Committee is a great. We are working to reestablish the Harbor Safety Committee here in Port Everglades. We've got it going in Miami. And that brings in the key stakeholders to see these issues day to day. And it lets us discuss at a table what each agency can bring, how we're going to work together to solve problems, eventually make waterway safer and maintain it and don't lose it. It's a vital resource, commercially, recreational. It's needed. That's what those forums are for, to have those open discussions.
Right.
I think it would be great to have somebody from the Marine Advisory Board be part of the Harbor.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
We're hopefully working
Working with you already.
that would be great. So, Sean, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? Let me put you on the hot spot for a moment. Little background.
It's okay.
Tell us what we're up to.
Well, give you a little bit of background. I am from here. I grew up down in Miami Gardens.
Nice.
On the Coast Guard from there. I recently was stationed in Louisiana. There I was doing my marine inspection. Then they brought me here. Been here for about a year now at Sector Miami. Of course, everyone already know I've been stepping in for Ben once he towards some bigger and better things over in, Baton Rouge. And Baton Rouge. And, no, I look forward to, continuing what Ben has already, like, has established a partnership with, everyone here, the communications that we plan on continuing on the side of the board. It's a lot of, friendship and, that we like to keep going and open communication, so we can, help out however we can.
Thank you. Yep, before you, I gotta put you on the spot for a second, just to say hello, and you came up here, I assume, and we really appreciate that. I mean, you have no idea what it means to have not necessarily your support, but just understand what we're working on, and hopefully partners together. So it means a great deal that you came up and visited.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm the deputy. I've been here for about 6 months, from New York, but I know I'm gonna retire in Florida like every other New Yorker, so. I can hear your accent for sure, sir. So I have a lot of interest in it. And like Ben said, it's, like we all know that the vessels are getting bigger, the industry continues to grow, whether it's private or commercial. I was on the New River, took one of those tours with patients. And my eyes were the same way. It's very challenging, navigation experience, even on some of the smaller boats. So it's definitely catching on to people who are approaching on the water. Their ships are getting bigger, well, their boats are getting bigger on the water. And I think it's something that we can definitely address as a team here, you know. We value the partnerships, more than I think, you know, we can't do this without you. It's you. We love to help us in these projects. It's absolutely a team partnership. Thank you for recognizing Ben. I don't always get to pick the people that come to the unit. I tried fighting to keep him here. I lost that battle, but he's on to a great position. He's got huge shoes to fill, but LT's in a good spot. And we're going to keep this partnership growing. And we look forward to seeing what happens in the future. Thank you.
Wonderful comments. Thank you very much. You definitely did not get rid of that Italian accent. I love it.
I can tell you, I promise it's starting to disappear. And then the Coast Guard sent me to Staten Island to be at Sector New York.
Now, big question. Is it gravy or sauce? Okay. So anybody have questions? Again, I'm extremely sensitive. I do want to read 2 notes before we let the Coast Guard leave. I have a note here. I would like to thank Lieutenant Adrian for his commitment to service to our nation and the United States Coast Guard, and particularly his work in recent years overseeing the waterways and waterfront of our region. Safety on the waterways is of paramount importance in Venice of America with our large recreational yachting community and thriving marine industry. He served the nation and our residents admirably during his stationing here, Mayor Dean Trantolis. And I also have another one from our Vice Mayor. Well, I have it somewhere. Oh, I do. Lieutenant Ben Adrian, I would personally like to express our deepest gratitude for your service to the city of Fort Lauderdale in the last 3 years as chief of the waterways and waterfront division. Your knowledge and dedication to our local waterways, particularly to our navigation and safety issues, has been an invaluable resource to our citizens and will be sorely missed. We wish you the absolute best in New Orleans as you continue your career, Vice Mayor Steve Glasser. We really appreciate it. Anybody have questions of the Coast Guard or Ben, anybody in particular? So you guys going to leave? I mean, there's no reason for you to stay around. Nancy Gassman is going to be talking about clean water. I assume you're going to head out.
Well, I would like to listen to that.
Okay, so we
There's some
get
things we might be able to bring.
the official MAB M&Ms.
That's not good.
I know, that was hysterical.
So,
Who wants to go?
go ahead. Barry Flanagan has a question, please, sir.
Bob, would it help any with the existing graphic survey that we have, say it's old, it's gonna take a while to get a new one. Could that be planted into your? the
Well, yeah,
existing-
exactly, yeah.
At least would show
Mhm.
what's there now, as it was at the time. it was
Okay,
done.
if I get a file that's a KML or KMZ file,
He has to do it electronically.
oh, no, I can do a lot of things electronically.
No, we have we have the printed document, so that you can't use that. It's too much work.
It'd be manual, I would have to manually, if,
We could get it from-
if it could be put into a form of
Well,
a.
fine.
Yeah. a file
Because there is a
format.
bathymetric study that I believe goes back to 2014, sometime. So,
That's 2000.
and so we don't know where it all goes, but Barry's point was a good illustration.
I picked that.
If I get that file format, it'll go right in, oh, yeah.
Okay, again, thank you to the Coast Guard, and we will hopefully see Sham often. There is a standing invitation, obviously, anytime that goes for the captain, et cetera, and I promise we will not abuse the relationship. Our next thing is, boy, this is went on a limb with this one. So the next thing is a conversation with Dr. Gassman, excuse me. Dr. Gassman came last time, and we'll spread these around, and hopefully we're gonna see what we're gonna do. By the way, I don't have a swollen head. I just had a picture of me and my grandson. Let's pull. So just a little quick background. When Nancy was here last month, and we were talking about a different agenda item, as she was about to leave, my question to her was, can we ever get the canals, et cetera, to be blue again? And that was a mistake because apparently they never were blue, so we're gonna hear about that. But what we want to know is whether, I'm not sure who it was who talked about swimming canals with the flipper, et cetera. Don't know if we're ever gonna get there, but my position is I have 2 more years before I time out. And my focus is to make sure the water is cleaner in 2 years than it is right now. And there's no way in hell we can't make that work, particularly with this person right here. So with everybody's support, unless anybody's opposed to us spending time, we're going to kick off a clean water initiative. We have some great resources available to us. One of the things that happened to me was each meeting we've been at, the commissioners, when we ask them, what's your hot button? Clean water, clean water. Everybody talks about it and we move on to the next meeting. Well, we also drew a line in the sand. And with Dr. Gassman's help, we put a focus on that.
Yeah, and Steve and I spent a little time talking about what his concerns are, and so hopefully I'll be able to cover a lot of those issues. Hopefully everyone can. To start out with, everyone knows Fort Lauderdale is the Venice of America. We welcome people to our waterways. We have water quality information available on our website and on the swim guide. But it's obvious that we're a large boating community and that people like to recreate in our waters. Nope. So before you can start saying, I want to do something about waterway quality, you really need to understand what it is. There are really 4 components. There's a physical component, color, temperature, water clarity. There's a biological component, algae, naturally occurring plants in the water, bacteria. There's a chemical component, oxygen, nutrients, chlorophyll. And then what most people recognize about water quality is there trash or debris or things that are floating in the water. The ones I'm going to focus on mostly today are color, bacteria, and trash and debris. And I'll talk just a little bit about nutrients coming into the waterway. So we'll start out with myths about color. A lot of people talk to me about, oh, the water's brown, it's so ugly, it's turbid, it's this, it's that. Well, no. Many people describe our waterways as dirty because of the brown color, but that iced tea color is the natural color of Southeast Florida waterways. That brown color comes from tannins as the water passes through the peat soils of the Everglades and then works its way through the canal system down to where we are. Offshore, blue water. Inshore, brown water. And again, it's not dirty and it's not full of pollutants. That's not what you're seeing. What you're seeing is that tannin colors, just like if you made a glass of iced tea. Another myth I want to talk about is, I hear it all the time. When I was a kid, I swam in these waterways. When I was a kid, I could do this in the waterways. When I was a kid, I could do that in the waterways. But what a lot of people don't realize when they were a kid was that in the 1970s, there were over 100 sewage package plants throughout Broward County that were discharging secondarily treated waste, which is a fairly low level of treatment, directly into the Broward canals and waterways. And so when you were a kid and you were swimming around in that water, ignorance is bliss. You were swimming around in secondarily treated wastewater, which had a nutrient component with both nitrogen and phosphorus, an oxygen component, and a bacterial. In many, many ways, the waterway quality is better today than it was in the 70s. But the other thing to keep in mind is that in the 70s, or even in the 60s, there were 100,000 less residents in the city of Fort Lauderdale than there are today. And that picture in the bottom corner is in 1968, the opening of the Kinney Tunnel. And what you're looking at is downtown. That's what downtown looked like. And so you can't expect to have perfect water quality when you're living in a very urban environment that is rapidly growing. So when you talk to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, one of the ways that they determine let's say grade the water quality is to assign a total maximum daily load. And what this says is that for your waterway has an impairment because of a certain waterway quality component. And you as a community need to work to reduce what's going into your waterway specific to these components. And so there's two different basins that are highlighted here. One is the New River area, and the other one is a little further north in the Middle River area. Both of those areas, the only impairment that is considered for those locations is bacteria, not nutrients, not turbidity, not brown color to your water, but bacteria. So there are no TMDLs currently for nutrients, oxygen, or turbidity in any of the Fort Lauderdale waterways, according to the state. When the city starts thinking about how do we deal with waterway quality, we're really looking at 3 buckets. Monitoring, keep an eye on what's there. And monitoring is done by the state, the Department of Health, Department of Environmental Protection. It's done by the county Resilient Environment Department, and it's also done by the city and under contract with Miami Waterkeeper. In terms of pollution prevention, we've got a number of different tools, policies, and regulations, a variety of different operational programs, permit requirements for permits that we have as a municipality, and then outreach and education. And then finally, when you have a water quality concern, your final and most expensive option is remediation or treatment. Trash removal, improving water circulation in various areas, removing contamination, or finding ways to actually treat the water column itself. And of all these things, pollution prevention is the most cost-effective way to address waterway quality concerns. So the commission, every year they name 5 or 6 top priorities, and waterway quality in the year 2020 to 2021 was considered one of their top priorities. And in the upper corner, you'll see that I've got monitoring in blue, I've got prevention in green, and then I've got remediation in kind of a yellow-orange. And I have identified each of those different activities under one of those 3 categories. So in 2020, we initiated this recreational water quality monitoring with Miami Waterkeeper, and we started performing algal bloom monitoring weekly during the peak season throughout the city to keep an eye out and get ahead of it if we started to see algal bloom issues. In addition to that, under prevention, we adopted a restrictive policy on fertilizing. You're not allowed to fertilize during the rainy season. We prevented over 1,000 tons of debris from even entering the waterway through the catch basin cleaning and street sweeping, and I'll talk a little more about that in a minute. We installed 57 pollution control baffles called snouts, and we outsourced our canal cleaning, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute as well. In 2021, we continued those monitoring activities. We continue to enhance our own requirements under the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit. It's a permit that we're required to have that says you are going to be very careful with your stormwater system and not let bad things come through the stormwater system and impact your waterways. And at 165 miles of waterways, that's really critical. But this is almost exclusively related to what's called non-point source pollution. Point source pollution is if there's a pipe from a factory and it's pushing bad things into the waterway. That's point source pollution. Non-point source pollution is the pollution's coming from all over. It's running off the roadway. It's coming from something from the air. It's runoff of nutrients from yards. Non-point source is a much harder pollution source to address. We initiated an algal bloom I'm having trouble speaking today, an algal bloom prevention pilot. And then we also work with private entities to pilot a protein skimmer technology. We initiated remediation of 3 water bodies that were impacted by the very unfortunate 2019-2020 wastewater discharges that occurred in the December through February timeframe. And then we're also decided to go ahead and put some aerators at some critical sites where we knew we had some water quality concerns. We continued these activities in 2022. Cleaning out, one of the things we did was we cleaned out all of the large stormwater pipes in the Himmershey and the Tarpon River Basin. And when I say large stormwater pipes, usually bigger than a 36-inch pipe. We did dredging in the Tarpon, and we continued to work through and actually install those aerators at 4 different sites. And then in 2023, again, continuing those activities, we expanded our water quality monitoring network. As we were constructing the new stormwater infrastructure in River Oaks and Edgewood, we installed 6 water quality structures. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. We finished the dredging in the Himmershey Canal, and we've been maintaining those aerators at those various locations. So as you know, Miami Waterkeeper has been working with us for 3 years. At each of the locations where they have monitoring, we have these welcome to our waterway signs. With cell phone, you can look at the QR code and find out what the latest monitoring data tells you. Weekly data is taken every Tuesday, and then if the site fails, it's taken again on Thursday, and it's a 24-hour reporting. One of the things that we've learned from our Miami Waterkeeper data, these are our 12 sites. One of the most important things that we've learned is that, that the areas city designated as water sport activity areas, the areas that we tell people go and recreate here. When we look at the EPA beach standard, which is a very, very conservative standard expectation that people are in the water, swallowing the water. When we look at those sites, the majority of our designated water sport areas are the cleanest water quality that we have, and we're passing the majority of the time. When we look at the Florida Department of Environmental Protection Class 3 standard, Class 3 means fishable, swimmable waters. Once again, we have a very high passing rate at most of these sites. The areas that we don't have good compliance with this standard tend But it's important to look at the history of water quality monitoring throughout our region. This is, Broward County does quarterly water quality monitoring. This is the site at Andrews at the New River, starting in the year 2006, going to 2023. We've got dissolved oxygen, turbidity, total nitrogen, chlorophyll, and then total phosphorus. But the thing that should catch your eye is that all of them, except phosphorus, say that the water quality is good, meaning we are meeting the standards at this location in the downtown area, the vast majority of the time over the course of that time frame, 17 years. When you look at phosphorus, what you'll notice that in 2016 is when we started to see excursions away from that compliance line and creating problems over time. I can't tell you right this minute why that was happening. There was a lot of construction in the downtown area during this time, but you can see we haven't come back down. So there's definitely issues related to phosphorus. When we look at the site right across from Secret Woods in the South Fork, closer to Marina Mile, the story is essentially the same. The water quality, for the most part, is good across the spectrum of all of these different parameters, with the exception of phosphorus. And what you see at phosphorus is that you've got a thumbs up and a thumbs down, and that's because there's two different standards. There's a standard for the marine waters, and there's a different standard for fresh water. And the one that really should apply in this area, because it's so far inland, is really the freshwater standard. And for that one, we are seeing poor water quality. So one of the big issues I think that most people think of when they think of waterway quality is there stuff in the water? Is there floating bottles? Is there trash? And one of the ways the city prevents that from happening is that we perform street sweeping every day in areas that are curbed throughout the city. And we clean our catch basins or stormwater drains or inlets, depending on what you're accustomed to thinking about. But what you see there is that over the course of the last 6 or 7 years, we've been pulling out about 1,500 tons of debris from those catch basins and from our street sweeping efforts. And that's debris that never managed to get to the waterway. That is pollution prevention. We have about 10,000 city-owned catch basins throughout the city, and we clean about half of them every year. But we have a proactive inspection program where we're looking at every catch basin twice a year. So if it needs to be cleaned, we will catch it in a 6-month time frame. We also respond to calls. So someone calls us up and says, my catch basin's full of debris, dirt, whatever. We come out and look at it. You can see there are 22,000 miles swept over the course of the year. Inside many catch basins, not every catch basin, but many catch basins, there's something called a baffle. And that baffle covers the outfall to the waterway. And what that does is it allows the floatables to stay above and outside of the pipe, and the things that will settle below the outfall to the pipe. And what you're seeing, that straight pipe on the right side, that's a jet vector coming in and cleaning out that catch basin. So you can see the top of the baffle, and then you can see the jet vector going in and sucking down all of the stuff that's in the catch basin. And that's how catch basins and these pollution retardant devices, baffles, prevent these types of pollutants from coming off the land and getting into our waterways. We have a second type called a snout. We've recently installed 57 of these. They work in a very similar way. The only difference is that we can open it from the top very easily, so we can look in and make sure there's no blockages in the outfall pipe. But again, it works exactly the same way. And you can see there the floating debris cannot get down below and come up inside the snout to get out. Another way that we're dealing with trash is that in 2019, we shifted over from doing this work with our own staff to hiring a consultant, a contractor to do the work. And you can see that there was a significant change in the amount of trash that we were removing from our waterways. This vessel touches every water body in the city once a month. But I think it's really important to understand that the majority of what we pull out of the waterway is vegetation. It's palm fronds, it's coconuts, it's yard trimmings. It's not what you would traditionally think of as trash, it's vegetation. So in 2024, we've got a couple of initiatives going on. We've hired a consultant to look at where we are doing our monitoring work and let us know if they think that we should be looking somewhere else. Just in addition to where we're currently doing our monitoring work. The commission is currently considering whether they want to hire a chief waterway officer. That decision will be made as part of this year's budget activities. We've been adding water quality structures as part of our stormwater improvements, and we've started our construction in Doors and Dorsey Riverbend, and we'll be adding, I believe, 4 additional structures in that location. We're designing a living seawall as part of the Riverwalk seawall, and we're going to be expanding our canal cleaning services. The map on the left, you can see that there's areas that are hatched. Our existing contractor has identified those areas after several years of working in our waterways as areas where there is an excessive amount of trash that they have to pick up on their monthly cycle. And we'll be increasing the frequency in the next contract for those locations where there is a higher concentration of debris. So I was talking about these waterway quality structures. The picture on the right, there are people standing there. Those are not small dolls. Those are full-size construction workers. So you can see from the blue arrows, the size of these water quality structures. And the whole idea that behind these is that they catch any floatable debris that has gotten through the catch basins, and they capture it before it gets to the pump stations. And then we'll be cleaning these out probably on a quarterly basis to make sure that none of that debris ever gets into the waterway. And with every one of our up and coming stormwater improvement projects, we are installing these waterway quality structures in a variety of different areas. Currently, I believe we've put in 4 at River Oaks, and we already had 2 on the North Fork New River. Some of the additional steps that the city is taking is that this fiscal year, Code Compliance added a boat, which allows them to improve their enforcement of waterway-related codes, which includes dealing with liveaboards, dock rentals, floating Airbnbs, boat maintenance at the moorings, and then unsightly vessels. In addition to that, marine facilities annually obtained a grant to remove derelict boats. Jonathan or Andrew can talk more about that. And then the city continues its outreach as part of its NPDES permit to include information, whether it's flyers or mailers or postcards, to various areas to let people know about landscaping waste, proper pet waste disposal, fertilizer use. We have information that goes out to the restaurants to make sure that they're not pouring their wash water from their floors down the storm drains. So there's a lot of things we're doing as part of our NPDES permit to address these concerns. But we're not alone. There are a number of other groups working in the city of Fort Lauderdale to try to address these concerns. There's a group called Residents for Resilience, and Fish Holiday is here representing that team. There's the Marine Research Hub, and then there's the Coastal Conservation Association of Florida. They're all looking to try to do some types of habitat restoration throughout the city, reestablishing oysters and oyster beds in the city, looking for opportunities for additional mangrove planting. And then the Marine Research Hub specifically is looking at innovations in the marine business realm that can be ported and working with entrepreneurs to create new solutions to these emerging problems throughout our waterways. And with that, I'll just let you know that on our Green New Routine website, there is a dedicated webpage for pollution prevention for the marine industry and boaters. The city has recently switched over to a new app for your phone called Fix It Fort Lauderdale, or you can always call the 800 number, 828-8000, if there is a concern on the waterways. And again, there's information on our website and at Swim Guide if you want to know what the waterway quality is in the area. And with that, I will stop.
Thank you. I think we all need a deep breath. That was a phenomenal presentation. Let me start with a question.
Dr. Gaspar, that was excellent presentation, really, enjoyed that and everything else. Not trying to put you on a spot and stuff, but 3 years ago you came and you said that they were going to dredge the entire Tarpon River. What is the latest update to that? Because since that time, we've had that man's flood last, almost a little over a year ago. And I was watching a lot of debris, like trash cans were upset and everything else and everything going into the river. And doing a little bit of diving and stuff over there. Still a lot of like carpets and rugs and everything else that are laying
In the river.
in the river and stuff on debris, even from the boat yards. Like a lot of that plastic and the things that they use to cover it's in the river and it's now covered with silt. That's all there, but it also was stopping the depth of the river. I know the depth of the Tarpon River has gotten even shallower since you brought that. I don't know whether you have an update of dredging and dredging. I think most of the people and stuff in here, Fort Lauderdale at this point does not have, to my knowledge, a budget in place to dredge the city of Fort Lauderdale.
So there's a lot to unpack there. So your question specifically about the tarpon is that at one point, the city submitted a legislative request at the state level to dredge the Tarpon River. That was not funded. And part of what we were told was the request wasn't big enough. So that was an interesting thing to be told. In terms of dredging of navigational waterways, let me back up. In terms of responding to the April 12th, 2023 flash flood, we've worked very hard to try to clear the stormwater system of the debris that got in there during that flooding event. So we've been doing mass cleanings of the system, especially the larger conveyance pipe, neighborhood by neighborhood of those neighborhoods that we identified as in the greatest need to have that work done. But we have not done any work to try to retrieve anything out of the waterways that might have gotten in during the. In 2017, the commission took a decision after an engineering study was completed that said, based on the navigational waterways within the city, we could do a dredging program where every 7 years we would do maintenance dredging in every single city jurisdiction waterway. But in order to pay for that, the commission was given a number of options, where the main option was that every waterway property would receive a special assessment to help create an appropriate fund in terms of amount, in order to dredge navigational waterways within the city. At that time, waterway residents came out in force, said, we don't want to pay for this. And at that point, the direction from the city commission, and it has not changed today, is that the city will no longer perform any dredging in navigational waters. That's where we stand today. And to your point at the end, there is currently no funding directed to dredging in navigational waters. We are doing dredging in a couple locations that are related to stormwater conveyance to ensure that we can prevent flooding in different areas, but those are canals that are completely dedicated to stormwater conveyance. Currently, we are dredging in the Osceola Canal, which is on the west side of Edgewood, and it runs along I-95 to help conveyance of water out of Edgewood toward the South Fork of the New River. The New River? Right, but it's not considered exclusively a stormwater conveyance. But I can tell you, I've met with the Army Corps of Engineers, the Singapore Water Management District, FDEP, and a number of other agencies to talk about the fact that when you look at the waters in Fort Lauderdale, We are influenced by the ocean and tidal water coming in. We are influenced by the western municipalities that their drainage comes through us. And we sit in the middle of those two forces. So we've had the conversation with a number of these different agencies about the fact that they need to think very carefully before they open up their gates and push water towards us, if we have the ability to address our own flood protection and our own flood control before they add more water into the waterways that we too are discharging into. And that's a flood issue, but it also is a waterway quality issue.
Anybody else?
Are heavy metals addressed in any of the studies I wrote there? I like mercury or anything like that. Are they getting into like crabs or anything that people would be eating?
Oh, that's a great question. So the Broward County, in my life before I came to the city, I ran the Broward County Environmental Monitoring Lab. And we did do some studies on heavy metals in blue crabs in the New River and in the North Fork to see if they were at levels that were problematic for consumption. And for the most part, what we find is kind of similar to what you see with large fish offshore, that the recommendation of the health department is no consumption more than once a week was the general outcome. If there is any sediment monitoring going on, it's happening at the county level and not at the city level at this point in time.
And one other question, what's the effect of the poor phosphorus? What's the ramifications of that?
Phosphorus, when you have high nutrients, and you usually have to have both nitrogen and phosphorus to make this happen, you're more subject to algal blooms or duckweed blooms. That's the concern with extra nutrients in the water.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Public? So there's so much to cover here. One of the big concerns we have is when Dr. Gaston leaves, we just close the door and forget about it. I'm going to follow up with her because of sunshine laws, et cetera. I'll do what I can to convey to the input and you know how to do this. As we go forward, I'll do the best I can to keep you abreast. We need some direction from Dr. Gaston with respect to next steps, big and small steps, short and long-term goals. We said that I started by saying my personal long-term goal of 2 years is the water will be cleaner in spite of the fact that I'm really making progress. On the short term, there are some basic things. Would you roll number 9, please? That a lot of this stuff comes down to just education. And you know, you've all seen this, but I have to play it because this is one of the issues that folks are dealing with. If you haven't seen this before, it's pretty fascinating. These guys are at Boca, Daddy's the boat. The assumption is they left because they had filled up the garbage cans with beer cans, and Daddy may not like that. So watch the scene coming up. And this is all about education. Dr. Gaston has talked about, it's coming in a second. Dr. Gaston has talked about signage. There's a host of things we can do. But when you see stuff like this, then this is just basic education. It's going to be right. Definitely wasn't alcohol.
Yeah. It's not beer.
So I'm pretty sure that none of you ever taught your kids to do this voting. But I guess if you had the idea comes from that, this is what you do.
So one of the things that I handed out, it's another aspect of the way that the city does outreach, are these floating keychain holders. And the message on them is trash, stow it, don't throw it. And that's one of the things that the marine industry and anyone who really loves being on the water isn't going to do that. Because they all know what's happening. But the idea is that hold on to your trash, don't throw it in the waterway.
But this is, the whole point of this is there are some basic steps that Nancy and I talked about. If you have something floating by you now, we all see the potato chip bags, the cellophane wrappers, etc. If we're not picking them up, they're making their way somewhere. We talked about simple initiatives. I talked to Bill Walker about going to West Marine asking them to donate 1,000 buckets and 1,000 8-foot nets. And we'll do some little campaign that says, if you see it, pick it up, and we'll award somebody captain in a month or some craziness that you could do at your own canals. We have to teach people, again, just be cognizant of what's going on. If you guys, I mean, old boaters here, we know what we used to do with beer cans. Those years have changed. So a lot of this, again, comes down to education, signage, et cetera. So before we let you move, how do we follow up? What steps should we go?
Well, I think the first thing that you need to talk about as a group is what aspect of waterway quality are you concerned about? Is it the color? Is it the physical components? Is it the biological component? Is it the chemical component, or is it trash? And once you define what problem you're trying to solve, you're going to have a much easier time deciding on what steps you want to take and what your performance metrics are going to be to determine if the water's actually cleaner. So for example, on trash, I've just told you, the city's going to be increasing its level of service for its own responsibilities. And certainly the work the Marine Industries Association does with waterway cleanup is a huge opportunity for education of people about what happens with trash on the waterway. But I think you need to decide what aspect of water quality you as a group want to address. And from there, it'll be easier for you to determine what your action item.
So, and one of the other points you made is we're talking about other groups that are doing similar things, et cetera. When you start going into Google, you start researching firms involved in this. We had Kind Design last month. We've had Captains for Clean Water. We have folks. There's so many people doing this. How do we make sure we're going down converging paths with these people? Is there a way to ensure that?
I think that's part of the intention of the commission considering the chief waterway officer.
Yeah.
Is that they can be a clearinghouse for all the different things that are going on and can help in coordination of those.
So my suggestion is, we won't bother Dr. Gaston next month. Maybe we can put on the agenda a discussion and come up with the issues that Nancy's talking about, defining what issues, where we want to focus, et cetera. If everybody's okay with that. Everybody cool? Any further questions, Dr. Gaston?
I'll add something quick. I think it's important. I think a perfect example of what you're saying, defining what clean water is. Because my initial thought wasn't the color of it, it was the trash, the derelict vessels, that kind of thing. But I think when you're going through these steps, identifying what resources you have for different agencies, like we work with derelict vessels with FWC and the police department. Those are some things we could do to work together as the stakeholders who are using this water. I think that would be a good starting point.
That's outstanding.
So question for you, do you know if the kids caught yet?
They work on
Okay.
it. It went viral on social media more than anything I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Really quick, they got thousands of hours of volunteer ahead of them, plus fines. That's just from the local level. So I'm sure there's going to be federal.
And I'll be on
They were
there
gone.
for years. Any further questions?
To pay for those fines.
Rob?
Yeah, just a question I've got is, it seemed like it was about 6 months ago. We had Marco from from Code. He mentioned that there had been an oil spill, a fuel spill, I think over in Lauderdale Marina. And it was a pretty big one. And the question is, what's the proper response? Who responds to it? Who do you call? I know it's one thing if somebody drops a little bit in the water, you're not supposed to, but at what level of a fuel spill or a sheen in the water is something where, hey, we got a call on the cavalry? Where were you with that?
On the federal side, it's not very much at all.
Okay.
It's just, it's real low levels. You could call the sector command center, they'll start that process and there'll be a national report filed. And that will trigger our incident management division, out there,
Okay.
investigate it and respond. But
Okay.
they're very good about that. I think I actually saw that, incident you're talking about with water.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things we can help with keeping the waterway clean.
But even if you call the 828-8000 number, they know who to call.
Yeah.
At the Coast Guard, at the Marine Patrol, start that chain of conversations to get the right people out there that can do that level of response.
Yeah, you can call, and you can call, we call police dispatch non-emergency.
Yeah.
Because the thing that my guys want to do, is since we're out there, right there, is if we can find the source.
Right.
While it's leaking, just stop that right away, so we don't get any more in there, and so we know we're responsible for it. And whenever we respond to a call, depending on where we're at, we're always gonna call the Coast Guard. Is that's part of our SOP, is if we find a spill, we call the Coast Guard, we call EV, depending on where we're at in the waterways, but call us, non-emergency lines, so we can get going, then we can hopefully find the source of it. A lot of times people don't know their fuel tank's leaking, and then their bilge pump comes on, and then start dumping fuel into the water. And most of the time, you can find that the guy will usually take care of it right away, you know, shut everything down so we can stop spill.
I think a lot of people accidentally turn on the macerators as well, but
Yeah.
we hope that we can stop that. Any further questions? Robert Washington.
How do you determine your boundaries? Like what's FWC and what's Coast Guard and what's law enforcement in the waterways? How does the public?
I guess it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So, I mean, the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, obviously anywhere in the jurisdictional boundary of Fort Lauderdale plus 3 miles, roughly 3 miles offshore is boundary we cover. The Coast Guard, FWC, they can go in and out, all in there, wherever they want. Depending on what you trying to achieve, we're usually a good starting point, and we kind of see what's going on, and then we start calling people. Obviously, it's a resource thing, we're gonna be calling FWC. If it's something, you know, to do with chartering or spills, something like that, we're gonna be calling the Coast Guard, you know. So we're usually a good starting point if you're in the city of Fort Lauderdale.
Each agency has different authorities, and the strong relationship we have with the stakeholders, any calls gonna eventually get back to the person who needs to know, who has that authority. Derelict vessel is a good example because the Coast Guard doesn't have a lot of authority when it comes to a derelict recreational vessel. It's not impeding navigation, but FWC does. We have a good relationship with them, we need to respond to those vessels. We work together, so Army Corps comes involved, there's different players, the connection is the key.
This is a great question though, because I'm a lifelong voter and I have no idea who to call. If I saw an oil spill or if I saw, you know, somebody dripping down the ICW appropriately or you name it, just, you know, like if there was gonna put something on this, put the numbers that you call. That would be a great way to,
Because the public, how does the public?
you just don't know.
If you see something that needs to be handled right away, there's a fuel spill, oil spill, something like that, I would say if you're in the city of Fort Lauderdale, you call dispatch, even outside the city of Fort Lauderdale. That way we can get going, we're out there in the water in the city. And then we go there, we look at what we have, and then we start moving up and out from there, depending on what we have. We have a spill, the Coast Guard's always gonna get called, DEP is gonna get called. If you have a reckless boater, you know, if it's something that you can get on, you can call dispatch. I don't want if it's that bad numbers, or you can go on the VHF radio, and us and the Coast Guard will definitely respond to that. We'll stop that right there.
Anybody else?
Yes,
I have a son that's a detective. One of the problems is you have these law enforcement people and everything else, they stop pollution. Then they stop people in situations like this here, dumping, illegal dumping and everything else. Arrested them, put them in there. And believe it or not, they got a $500 fine. They all walked out smiling and laughing and everything else and stuff because they could afford the $500 fine. You're driving stuff like that. That's a couple $100,000 boat. And more than likely those kids or something or their parents can afford that. And the biggest problem is what the fine is actually less than the problem with pollution. It's easier to throw it out if we don't get caught fine. And that's the biggest problem that he said is that why would we even bother renting these people? Because by the time I get done with the paperwork, they're already paid the fine and they're out. So I think one of the things that needs to be is the fine or the penalty has to be stronger than what the actual polluting itself is.
Well, these kids got, as Nancy said, a lot of hours of community service. There is no question that it just doesn't, it's just not adequate. but it's the way it goes. Hopefully the lesson is learned. And frankly, I think a lot of people learned, somebody mentioned this is all over national news. So hopefully it was an educational.
But hopefully the rest of the outcome is also on national news, because most people don't know. I mean, you didn't even know that they.
Anybody else before we let Dr. Gaston go? Yes,
I
please.
think it's important to note that on all marine facilities, condition in their permit is to have a spill responder contract. So if you see a facility, they have an 800 number they can call that they're supposed to call, as well as reporting to call to clean up.
Another option for the city as well. I used to work for Tobo US for 7.5 years. And I have 4 years in the private yacht. Tobo US at 15th Street Fisheries has a landing craft, like vessel there that has 1,200 feet of yellow containment boom, as well as absorbent boom on board, and a captain that is stationed at that area 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know how that would work out as far as, because obviously it's a private company, they need to get paid. But if there is a significant fuel leak, obviously with gasoline, you unfortunately just want to let it evaporate. But diesel or oil or anything else, so US Water has got a vessel right there ready to go. They do all the bunkering payments for everything. So that's why they carry that 1,200 feet of containment. And I also actually have a trailer in Alpha that's got another. Ready, so just another option.
Anybody else? Yes.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Yes, I'm sorry, my name is William Sisson.
William Sisler?
So we'll let Dr. Gaston go, but we're gonna let her go with the understanding that we put this on our agenda. We'll discuss it amongst ourselves. We'll come up with some steps that we'd like to see taken, if that makes sense. Anything additional? So first of all, thank you for the keychains. Barry Flanagan is making sure that we officially present you with some. Guys, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give you another one. So, okay, looks like we're losing the Coast Guard, so let's say goodbye to them,
Thank
and
you.
then we'll continue.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
The one in Italy.
No, no.
If you did, you just get rid of that.
Yeah.
Most people, that looks like.
Okay,
It's absolute trash, more trash than you can imagine.
I think I should.
When I heard that.
So, wow, that was really great stuff. It's a starting point for us. Again, it's very difficult working within the constraints of sunshine laws, but I've been able to hear it from you guys, et cetera. So we'll put this on the agenda. I'll continue to work with Dr. Gassman, provide additional information as I get it, and I think we can really make an impact. So I thank you all for getting behind that. With respect to business issues, which is actually why we're here, we have one waiver, which is at 1180 North Federal. 1180 North Federal is at Riva Condominiums. This had been in front of us before. We had unanimously approved it, and there was a slight issue. We have a representative here that would like to present. Oh, okay. Come up, step. Don't be shy. Thank you.
Name is Akbar, the contractor for both residents of South Florida. I'm speaking on behalf of Joyce. Joyce, the homeowner of the apartment 1502 at 1180 North Federal Highway, the Revere condo on US 1. And what we're proposing to install the boatlet at the slip number 7. And what's unique about the slip is we part to request the barriers to be sent for 25 feet setback of the boatlet installation. Because of where the boatlet is being installed is perpendicular instead of parallel to the slip. So you have to be extended out in order for the boatlet to set safely moored in. We previously applied for barriers for a different boatlet and no profile, which was approved the last time, but you had to pull it out to the conflict decision with the condo. So we went to the alternative proposition, which make it more similar boatlet installation for the other boatlets. So keep it similar to everything else, rather than have that full no proper decking. So this one we have a regular 4-post boatlet installed with catwalk, so it'd be alternative to the forward decking, so that way the people can still walk around and get on the boat safely. We also asked you to add the forward platform, so that way you keep that low profile feel, except you just give it as a precaution, so that way you can have a regular boatlet installed. That's it, other boatlet that's in place in there. So it's a four pylons, like on every other boat installed in River Condo. It's you have 2 catwalks, left and right side stays within the boatlet, stays on top of the boatlet itself. It's not posted anything up other than the beam of the boatlet. And it's 24K, which is the average standard boatlets for our common vessel that people tend to have. Right now, full word have is 0.8 feet out for the 25 setback, which is a lot different from the old proposal where you were proposing like over 15 feet outwards in the waterway. Right now, it's just a lot closer. It's 7.8 feet. It's just a lot closer to the property, to the wet base than it normally would be. So that way, it's similar to every other boatlet that's been installed. Next one.
Yeah.
So actually see the mooring pylons there that standard will be set up inside the posting where the mooring pylon is. So there is not much of a difference right out of both in there. As you can see that there's some wide space, it's supposed to be like over 300 feet of spacing of the proposal, so we don't have to worry about navigation issues. They will not impede any navigation channels that are coming to go. And it's enough for the boats just kind of put in. As you can see, all the other boat pictures, you see perpendicular rather than parallel. So that way, every homeowner that have those step for opportunity actually more the vessel in. You guys are walking about 332 feet, and the slip number 7 is just right up there. You see how there's something one pylons has stays within that area. So it's not just standing out. And it's not like an eyesore for the other condos. So that way they already have that opportunity to have boatlet. It's fair for everybody else. There's a say we're not impede to the navigation. It provides extra precautions so that people can board on the vessel and keep the boat out and keep the boat safe. Remember the catwalk and board platform, and the homeowner can actually board the vessel safely without any issue, especially with the board platform being attached to the perpendicular of the finger pier and the small dock. So that way it's not sticking out behind the boat out in the water. It's just sticking on its side. It's not invading everybody's space. Just pretty much it.
Nice presentation, very nice. Just one thing. Okay, so, thank you, I'm sorry, there's a slight here, so, a couple things. This has been in front of us before, it's we have a straightforward, great spot up there, beautiful location, you all know it, right behind the Audi dealership on Federal. It did come to before us before, there was some issue about allowing additional boat lifts, one, more than one every 100 feet. This has passed the sniff test of Attorney Dunkel. There are a couple quick things. One is that we do have a letter of support from Howard Braverman, who's the president of the board of directors of Riva Condominium, supporting this. So we approve this. We assume this is approved. They have the approval of the board of directors to install. So they're on board with this. Bob Dunkel expressed one concern that if this is to be approved, we need you to confirm ownership of the slip. So we have to, again, it would be a contingent that if it goes before the commission, that they would provide, again, confirm ownership of the document and the comments. So it's not a big deal here. Questions from the board? Anybody? Resolution, anybody issues anything? No. Okay, does anybody have, like to? Public. Open it to the public. Any question? Questions from the public?
Explain the questions that they bought it.
No, so it's a condominium.
Right now.
I can
Go ahead.
So previously, when they came to us 2 years ago, they provided proof of ownership in the form of a letter from the condominium stating ownership. I thought that would be sufficient, but Bob's asked for an updated version of that. So that it's not
The ownership of the seawall or the.
the slip itself.
By the condominium,
They want us to- Yes.
the,
It's a deeded slip
to that condo owner.
because not all condos have deeded,
And
so
2 years
that's,
ago, we had that proof and he like an updated version.
so it's a deeded slip.
Technically, if it was a deeded, then the condo would have to be the one bringing this.
That's part of it.
Okay, that's what I was trying to ask. Okay.
Well, that's.
So you'll get me something.
Any other further questions? Would anybody like to make a motion? Does anybody, Jim?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
We have a motion approved by James Harrison.
With
I'll second.
the addition of proof of ownership.
So it would be, Jimmy's point is that, we are making a recommendation to approve, subject to confirmation that they provide confirmation of ownership. We don't think so as well. So we have a motion to approve, subject to
He already is.
confirmation. We have a second from Tyler Brunel. How about a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Okay. Just one. Okay, Tyler Brunel,
Yes.
Robin Chiarelli,
Yes.
Jason Dunbar,
Yes.
Barry Flanagan,
Yes.
Robert Franks,
Yes.
Elizabeth George.
Yes.
James Harrison,
Yes.
John Lewis,
Yes.
Norbert McLaughlin,
Yes.
Noel Morzo,
Yes.
Robert Washington,
Yes.
and Chair Whitten.
Yes, thank you. So this is approved, subject to the applicant providing confirmation that the slip is owned. And we assume that should be measured. So thank you all. Great presentation. Next is moving right along. We actually are making progress. This is the feel-good part of it. Welcome, Debbie. Where'd she go? So we have Robin. What did you pronounce your name?
Mahar.
Robin Mahar and Debbie Frankel from Freedom Waters Foundation. So Freedom Waters, I'm going to let Robin explain this, but Robin is Director of Program and Development at Freedom Waters. And I believe the mission statement is enhancing the well-being of children and adults with disabilities and veterans through their therapeutic voting experiences. We have had, again, a number of issues that we've gotten behind, and this is about as important as it gets. So I thank you for presenting, and you got the floor.
Thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate you inviting us here today. I do have some flyers and our impact reports. If you want to take one, you don't have to. There's one of each. But thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak to the Marine Advisory Board today. As you said, I'm the Director of Program and Development for Freedom Waters Foundation. Our purpose is we provide therapeutic boat outings for children and adults with life-threatening illnesses, special needs, or disabilities. We also serve veterans. We do not own any of our own vessels. We rely on private and commercial boat owners to donate their time and their vessel, and we match them up with our participants. We've been around for about 18 years. We're founded here in Fort Lauderdale by Debbie Frankel, who you'll hear from in just a minute. She's our executive director and co-founder, and a now retired yacht broker, John Weller, who himself is a 6-time cancer survivor. So that is how we got started, and I've been with the group about 2 years since post-COVID, and I cover the Broward and Palm Beach areas. And essentially, we're matching up boat owners and participants who need some water therapy, some time, and relaxation and respite that we all take for granted sometimes. Being on the water and how that is healing for us. I see some familiar faces around the room. I know Jason Dunbar has been familiar and volunteered and captained our group for over 10 years. He and his business partner, Andrew Sella, were instrumental in getting us off the ground and solidified here in Broward. We're still not super well known, but we are growing. And that's why I'm thrilled to be here today so that you all, the rest of you, learn about us and get involved. We've recently also become partners with the Winterfest Foundation, the nonprofit side of the parade. And I know that it's a few of you who are on the board. We're grateful for that. One of the things that they've done for us, they've donated a boat for veterans in a boat parade. And most recently, we've started a Water Safety Family Fun Day, which is our community event, which is a little different from our normal boat trips that we provide. But this has been 2 years we've had it at Esplanade Park. It's open to the public, and we partnered with a water taxi who has provided free boat rides that day for children and families. And then we get other organizations to come and exhibit around the park, and we have music and food trucks, etc. We were fortunate enough this year to have the city, or last 2 years, to have City of Fort Lauderdale's police boat there, Coast Guard vessel. The city fire boat came by and did a little demonstration for us, and we also had the Cito Foundation boat come this year. So kids can come and climb on the boats and see more, and it's just another way to give back to the community and get more involved with learning about both water safety for swimming as well as boat safety, which is our primary issue.
And
Debbie, would you like to say something? You're muted.
I'm not now, I think. Can you hear
There you
me?
go.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to add to that. Well, first of all, thank you again for having us. This is an honor, and it's nice to see some familiar faces too. I just wanted to add, in addition to all those boats that were there for display, and we also had the water safety partner, the water taxi partner with us. And they did boat trips throughout the day also, which was really great. So they had that on the water experience as well. Were you able to queue up our video so that we could show that?
Were we able to? Yeah, okay.
Okay, so this would be a great time for us to show the video, and then we can answer some questions afterwards. This video, I'll just give a little prompt to the video. This is a video that we did for our 15th anniversary. So that you'll see a now and then. That's because it was showing now and then for 15 years. But if you can cue that, that'll give you firsthand experience from our participants of kind of the things of what we do. Is possible?
Yes. Coming.
Okay.
Oh,
I can keep talking.
You can just stand there looking good too, it's fine. It's fine. We're trying.
Thanks. I just want you to know that even though you didn't see me, I was here the whole meeting, you guys.
Oh, no, we knew you were there. You didn't say anything badly about you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, while we're waiting, oh, Jason stepped out of the room.
You have to leave.
I was going to totally put him on the spot. How many others of you in the room know Freedom Waters Foundation?
Yes.
Oh, okay, a few. Has anybody gone out with us?
I'm here if you need anything.
Has anyone else gone out with us?
Anyone on a boat trip with us? Not yet.
No, and we'd like to change that hopefully.
Awesome.
Well, so I'll just give you a little bit more. Just let me know when that's ready to go and I'll stop talking. I'll just give you a little bit more. When John and I started this, I was living over on that coast. I'm currently in Naples, and I appreciate you guys letting me Zoom in tonight, so I didn't have to drive over. But we started with just taking children with cancer out on boats and their families. John, who was the yacht broker, and me, who was a social worker, he would get the boats, I would get the kids. And we just started with one child with cancer and their family going out. We currently we currently cover, like Robin said, people with disabilities, both children and adults, life-threatening illnesses, youth at risk, and veterans. And we do programs that we take people boating for an hour and a half up to 3 hours. And it's strictly for them to just go out and relax and enjoy the water. If you just take a moment and think about what the water means to you and how you feel on it, and exaggerate that by 10 for somebody who might not have that same experience, that's kind of what we do. So we do just local cruises. We do some fishing outings. In Naples, we have an adaptive sailing program where we teach people with disabilities how to sail. We used to do that in Fort Lauderdale too, and we may get that up and running again someday. And then we do, we can do like single boats anywhere from 17 feet, little skiff boat, up to, we have the Mariner 3 up in Palm Beach that we use, which is a classic 1926 122-foot motor yacht, where we put groups of veterans or groups of kids with disabilities on and take them out for a boat ride. We've also done boat outings where we have groups of boats, like Robin just did one with 26 North Yachts where you had 4 boats, correct, Robin?
Yes.
Yeah, so 4 boats, filled them with kids with, I think they were all with cancer, correct? Or other
Yes.
disabilities. And then all 4 of those boats go out for like a lunch cruise, come back. We partner with, like Robin said, we don't own any boats, so we have all private and commercial boats that donate the use of their boats and their vessels to make this happen. I can see it queued up
Yes,
there.
we're ready now.
We're ready, Debbie.
I can see, and I can stop talking.
I can't even tell you what our IT guy just went through. Which is
We're restarting, I'm so sorry.
Uh-oh, there's no sound. Can you get sound on it?
We have sound.
We have
Okay, sorry. I just don't hear the sound.
Freedom Waters Foundation is an organization that has always been there for us to give us just what we needed, to be able to look up from our lives and know that other people care and are there for us, and that we can just be a family and have a little fun still.
It's a wonderful organization that provides so much for the community. I mean, special needs families and people just in need, and it's a really unique experience because you don't get to be on beautiful boats like this every day, so.
Freedom Waters Foundation is just something that accepts us no matter what. I don't have to say, we deserve this because. I don't have to write anything that proves we deserve to be there. It's simply, we see you and we welcome you. And we have room, we have time, and we have love in our hearts for you.
We've taken veterans out too, and a lot of them with PTSD, and they seem to forget about their problems when they go out. And they are able to talk about some of their experiences, which I'm not sure they do a lot. being on the water just seems to be very freeing. So we like doing it.
My name is Staff Sergeant Wilfredo Vasquez. I go by the name of Freddie. Been in the United States Army for about 30 years, 7 months, and 5 days. When I tried to transition from military to civilian life, I was diagnosed with PTSD and TBI, which is a traumatic brain injury from an explosion. I struggled being social. I stayed home all the time. I had friends that would go shopping for me. You know, this is why we have an organization like Freedom Waters. It's because you bring a bond, you talk to these service members, and that way you can get them out of that dark place, like I was. And when I came on my first boat ride, I knew what it did to me. It opened me up. This water therapy does work. You know, we can't save everybody, but we save more than we lose. So I contribute a majority of my life right now to Freedom Waters. Yesterday I went jumping out of an airplane. I would have never had done that. I would have still either been locked up in the house or probably not here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for showing that.
We're not letting you leave yet. So, how do we all get involved? How do we sign up? If we're a voter, I'm Tyler Bernales, and I would love to do this, and I have my 34-foot sea ray, and I could you people out. What do we begin? We just offer to have them come and meet them at a dock? What do we do?
So you call me, you reach out to me, and you have my contact information, or you will, or I'll have cards at the end of the presentation today. But you can also go on our website, freedomwatersfoundation.org. There is a place you can sign up to be a boat owner. If you know a family with special needs kids, they can sign up to be a participant. You can sign up to volunteer. You can become a donor. But call me. I'm the Broward and Palm Beach contact. Call me. I can help you. And basically, every trip is a mini Make-A-Wish. It's customized boat trips. So if you want to take just veterans, that's where your heart is, or you have a special spot for children with certain issue, then that's what we're going to match up with you. And it can be any size boat. It can be a small whaler that takes out 2 veterans. It can be a sailboat. It can be a fishing boat. If you don't own a boat, you know someone who does, please introduce me. So we are looking for boats that we can match up with our participants. We're always looking for participants. We're looking for volunteers that will go out and be our host or representative on all the boats. I can't be on all the boat trips, unfortunately. We need help with fundraising. We need to be introduced to donors who have, the heart for the things that we do, and might also be affiliated with the marine industry, boat owners, and the water. So send it all my way.
So, everybody, thank you personally, and you, Debbie, as well. I mean, as we talked about feel good, we have so much to be thankful for, guys, an opportunity to do something like this. So if Jimmy Harrison says, I want to do this, can he just take somebody out for an hour? Does he have to follow up the group? Just take them out?
You can take them out for an hour. We do 1 to 3 hour boat trips. And again, I will work with the accommodations of the boat owner, and we'll make it happen. So you give me the boat and I'll find the people. I'll get you the volunteer. We provide usually, depending if it's a longer trip, we'll provide some light refreshments for everybody, and we'll be the host, and we'll bring you. We'll handle it in the picnic spot. If you don't want to pick up at a private residence, we can figure out a marina. I work with a lot of great groups in the area that are very friendly with us.
Robin, thank you. Debbie, thank you. It's a wonderful, wonderful cause. Stay in touch with us. We'll make sure that we do the same. What do you say, guys? M&Ms? I think.
I'd like to just say something about Freddie, the young man that you just saw who spoke at the end. It took 3 months for him to be talked into coming out on the boat ride with us from another veteran. And when he finally came, he came on the Naples Princess, where we had 140 veterans and their spouses on board. And after that 1.5 hour boat ride, that man was totally changed. And he stopped hanging out just in his house. He stopped isolating. He understood that there were other people that he could be around and feel safe. He went on to, I mean, that literally was the last day he hid himself in the house. He went on to become the local the vet council president here in town. He became a volunteer for us for years and still is, but now he is has a job where he drives his employer across the country. So literally he went from hiding away to being this star out in the world from a one and an hour and a half boat ride. So we do make a big impact, and that's just one example. I encourage you all to get involved somehow, some way, and please just help us spread the word. And thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. You know what, Barry Flanagan passed a card. I'll pass a card. There's a number of us that, again, feel very thankful for what we have, and this is a way to give back. So thank you all. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. On to the next. Goodbye, Debbie. We'll see you hopefully at some point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Robin.
So next we have a presentation to us. Is a presentation of Nautica Residences and Hotel. And who do we have here for Stephanie?
Stephanie is here.
Oh, Stephanie is here. Okay, good. I couldn't see anybody over there. This is Stephanie Toothaker, and I appreciate you giving us the history here and some insight and something new and exciting.
And she's a boater.
She is a boater.
Yes, she is.
Well, thank you so much. I'm not the only one here. Stephanie Mayorga is with my office, and Pennycut is actually doing the in-water permitting for this project. So Penny's gonna join me up here. I have just a very quick little PowerPoint that shows what's being proposed for that. But just let me start with a little bit of history. So this is this project is still going through the DRC process, but we're far enough along now that we felt it was appropriate to come and share with you the elements that are in water. This is where the Pirate Republic restaurant is. Yeah. And also the Riverfront Marina, which I know I'm sure you're all very familiar with. It's dry stack that's been there for a very, very long time. And there is a project next to it that the advisory board interviewed some time ago, where the Raintree, everyone knows Raintree. That is that project, just as an update, that project is in right now for its building permits. So that's going to be coming along very, very soon. And so this project is the same developer, and the reason that it says on the screen not a co is because the concept is that this particular project is so driven by the fact that it sits on the water. It includes a marina, and the future project also does a dry stack marina that we'll show you in just a moment. And so, so Aussie really wanted it to be a Nautica district. Project itself is called Nautica. So the overall district, which includes the original project, is Nautico, which are all these waterfront uses, and then the project itself is called Nautica, which is why it says Nautica. So as I said, it is in the site plan process. This is a project that will have to go to Planning and Zoning Board and City Commission, and for quite some time from that. But we've been working for a long time with the riverfront. The riverfront is so important, as we all know. And we had some challenges as it related to this project because of itself. So you can't take the river walk through a working marina. And so we've now reached, we think, a solution. We presented to the Riverwalk Committee. It was, I never put words in their mouth. We're still waiting on the letter, but I think it was well received. And I heard from some board members that were a part of that, how happy they were with that. So I'd like to just show you the images of the portion of the project that we're on. So as I was saying, the project, obviously, it's overall, the Nautica district is two pieces. The Raintree Riverwalk Residences was already approved, and that's what you see in the lighter pinkish color. And the Nautica project is this very long red where the existing river rate is today and the. So this is the slide that's on the, I think on the left is showing you the back of the project, not the portion that's on the water. But you can see some images here, and actually what we've done is the site plan itself, this is the base of the project. It has 3 uses in it. It's a hotel, it's a extremely high-end condominium, and also a multifamily rental. So it's got 3 different uses going on. You see that a lot in projects these days that have a lot of mixed uses going on. And then of course, most importantly for tonight is that there is a massive upgrade to the dry stack marina. So the dry stack marina becomes a really integral part of the project. And the reason that we're showing you this slide up on the right-hand side is that all around the dry stack marina is glass. So it's an interactive experience for the people who can go along, as I said, along the river walk, which I'll show you in a minute. But you can also walk, we cut right through the center of the building to create an interactive experience that allows you to actually see the boats coming in and out of the itself and being dropped into the water. And so we're really, really excited about that. The project is designed by Monica. Next slide. So here is our new and improved Riverwalk concept. And we played with different elements of the Riverwalk that showed it. And you can see that what I was talking about is back here. And on that one, it's behind the building. You can see the cut through. So the Riverwalk continues down. There's 2 options for the Riverwalk. We've elevated it over the working marina, and you can either stay on the Riverwalk via a elevator or a stairwell on both sides. On the eastern side, you see the stairwell is exterior. On the other side, it's interior. And then you also have the option of going behind the building and watching the boats come into the water. So we're maintaining the riverfront dining, that's Pirate Republic now. Great relationship with the gentleman that operates that. So we'll see if that's a use that will stay, but it will be riverfront dining. And you can see that this is all transient dockage. There's just the one, you can see the boat coming out of the base of the marina that's where the boats will enter. The rest of it is all transient except for obviously people that are renting stuff inside. And Penny, I'm gonna ask you to come up because Penny's the in-water expert, not me. I was just gonna cover some site plan things so we can she can answer any questions that you have and it's gonna get all of the permitting. Next slide, I'm sure. So those are just some additional images again, maintaining that riverfront dining experience. You can kind of see the stairwell that's inside of the glass and what's happening. So there are 7 wet slips maintained and 84 dry slips that are up to 38. Is that it? Slide. Sorry. I'm gonna let you do this.
Sure. So I'm Penny Cutter with Cummins Cedarburg. We're a local coastal engineering, marine engineering firm. We're doing the marine design and environmental permitting for the facility. What you're looking at here is a plan view of the in-water elements. The gray portion on the bottom part of the screen is the landward portion of the basin that will be backfilled to facilitate the development. Right now that's tidal waters. You can see a line about a third of the way in from the north end of the project. There's sovereign submerged lands on the north portion of the basin, but the majority of the tidal waters on the site are privately owned. So with this upland cut basin, we tend to have not great flushing, not great water quality. So backfilling the landward portion of the basin will certainly improve water quality on site. And then we will construct, we'll be replacing the seawalls immediately in front of the existing walls where there are walls, and at the north end of the property on the east and west side, it's a natural shoreline, so we'll be installing seawalls there to stabilize the shoreline, meeting the city tidal flood barrier ordinance of +5 feet in ABE. And then what you see here is a slip layout accommodating the transient slips for vessels that are launched and retrieved from the dry storage facility. And then in the evenings, when the facility is not operating and all the vessels are stowed away in their dry slips, the slips will be available for restaurant patronage on a transient basis. That's just a plan view of the building. You can see one layer of the dry storage facility. It's a gantry crane style automated dry storage facility that'll launch out into the Marina Basin with a gantry crane style mechanism. The vessels will be staged in racks with a total number of 84 vessels accommodated in dry slips for vessels up to 48 feet. The in-water slips can accommodate vessels up to 60 feet. That's just our facility, architectural rendering showing the river walk along the waterward side, going right over the gantry crane.
Questions, anyone? The two docks on the outside, dock 7. Are they extending, they essentially the same location of their docks are extending in the river?
No, they're actually a little bit landward. The existing overwater dining area is limited to some degree by the state statute as to how big overwater dining can be on sovereign submerged lands. You may, in the past, the state was not willing to lease new lands for overwater dining. But the state did revise 1821, the ordinance for use of sovereign submerged lands. And so currently the submerged lands lease actually goes a little further into the river, to the navigable waterway than we will be proposing with this lease. So it will be a new lease for the currently proposed structures and mooring areas. And we're not proposing any mooring on the waterward edge of the dining area.
Okay, but what about the gas outside of the train?
There's no, that area right now on the east side, northern shoreline, if you want to pull the plan view back up. Go back one more. There you go. That's slip number 7 right now. That's an unconsolidated shoreline. It's a natural shoreline. It's somewhat shallow. The state statute does require a setback for marginal docks of 10 feet from the property line, which we're showing there. And we're not proposing to necessarily dredge that slip at this point. We're just going to put a seawall in generally along the waterfront. The mean high water line in that area is a little irregular, so we will be doing a little bit of filling to accommodate a straightened off shoreline there. And then that vessel will just be moored along a narrow marginal dock along the new seawall, but it's not extending any further waterward. It's actually further landward than what the existing sovereign submerged lands extent is.
Anybody else?
Have something.
Yes, sir.
You said replacing the seawall with what?
A
What-
new seawall.
What
will be-
kind of?
I don't know that we've decided. It will probably be a steel sheet policy wall. Immediately waterward to the existing and then raising the cap and the grade on the entire property to the 5 feet NABD requirement.
And you're not afraid of the vibration?
No.
So
We'll do
if I
geotech-
teach a tile problem.
No, I mean, when necessary, we do vibration monitoring if the geotechnical engineering warrants it. This is all new construction, so there won't be buildings that we're worried about the vibration impacts to right now. But when the geotechnical engineering assessment of the study warrants it, then we do include vibrational monitoring and accommodate for that in the engineering design. I'm not an engineer, marine ecologist, recovering regulator, but I speak engineering most of the time pretty well.
Just talk faster. It sounded good to us.
I'm good.
Anybody else? Patience.
I have some concern about, that number 7 being a permanent slip. Right now, they have to only use it for touch and go, like launch to go, and it's there for a little while. How that lines up to the train bridge is pretty close.
So none of the slips are considered permanent slips. All of these are transient staging slips for the dry storage facility. And again, when the dry storage facility isn't operating for the restaurant. But we don't have permanent mooring.
I will say that that's something very rarely used.
And again, that's the smallest, and it's shallow, particularly along the east edge of it. We're not, at this time, we're not proposing a maintenance dredge in there. It abuts the railroad property, which is also a natural. And so, you know, if we're to make any dredge. Wall and structure stabilize the sediment so that it didn't erode right back in.
Focus on that, the server is keeping it back.
Yeah, I've got a question. Is there any plan to pump out the sands?
We've gone back and forth about including fuel and pump out or not. I don't see a problem necessarily including a pump out facility. But we can certainly discuss it.
That's a great point. That's
Yeah.
Nancy Gassman this year was talking about, so discharge, et cetera. There aren't enough pump outs out there, so, you know, we don't vote. And my issue would be about your shoot from the hip area. If we're gonna approve a new facility, this certainly should have pump outs. This is kind of a different situation, I would argue, but I think if vote comes back, we gotta have. It's existing, if you guys, yes.
Just need his name, please.
My name is Norm Beckhoff.
Norm Beckhoff, thank you.
So, there is an existing dry stack storage facility there. It's old, rural, we call it at best. So it's a lot of it. Thank you for that presentation. Any other? Pat? Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, just curious, there's been discussion about either having a tunnels for trains in that area or a bridge. Have y'all considered that you might have a bridge right next to your property or?
Massive.
Well, tunnel bridge, I mean, it could go either way, I don't know, but.
You know, anxiously awaiting any engineering plans to tell us that.
Well, we're hoping it's a tunnel, but yeah.
That's too. What I can share with you is that we did have very detailed discussions with the groups that are studying the town. And they would need an easement from.
Okay.
We've done all that, we've done all of that research and engineering studies, and if it is required, the developers.
Okay.
Yeah. So please keep us abreast. We're always welcome to us. And if you have updates, you can send it over to Katie or share with us. And we'll wish you best of luck. That's great. That's a great spot, great problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, really appreciate it.
So, old new business. We're actually gonna make it here tonight. So very quickly, May 7th. Are, the moratorium goes in front of the city commission, to be voted on and hopefully at some point formalized. I will go there. We don't know yet when it is, right? Where it is.
I think it's gonna be discussed on May 7th, it'll be voted on thereafter, kind of subsequently.
So it's discussed on May 7th, and I believe it's voted on the 21st.
I'm pretty sure.
It sounds like something like that. Andrew, make sure you're aware of when the meeting is. You are certainly welcome to come. Then every time we show up at bench strength.
At the NSU, it's at the NSU Art Museum.
It's gonna be on May 7th. It's
Yeah.
just the agenda is not formally,
I
You have
Just
to,
review.
you just.
I have the agendas,
Yeah,
so.
Except the pre, yeah. you got the
Pre-commission,
So it'll be on the 7th.
So we'll keep everybody abreast of what's going on. I'm hoping that we will, toast to our success. Unfortunately, as we know, we're just still beginning, so that's pretty exciting stuff. With respect to additional, talked about reimagining the New River. That was important that we kept that on the agenda as the request. Yeah, so, we're at that witching hour here, so I will reach out to you, send out the requesting updates from you guys, some thoughts, etc. When we reconvene next month, we will have the moratorium reimagining the river earlier on the agenda to talk about it. We'll pick up on a few items we have here. If it's okay with everybody, we will stick a clean water initiative on early as well. And we'll come up with some next steps to make it home and I'll have it. Anybody else have anything special before we go? Anybody from the public? Yes, please, Beth. I'm sorry, honey, I can't hear you.
Touch on the topic of reimagining the river.
Sure. So we had, so you want to just kind of an update on where we are and how we got this far? Certainly. So there's a request on where we are with the waiver. We started working on the waiver some time ago. We have now what is called zoning in progress, the moratorium. So we have zoning in progress that the attorneys have felt that we do not have to entertain a waiver right now because of zoning in progress. The hope is that the moratorium will be finalized by the city commissioners, and we then have 1 year to present plans for reimagining the New River. And the reimagining the New River takes into consideration assuring safe navigation. As we heard from the Coast Guard, there are boats, obviously, they're rafting illegally, there's illegal dolphin pilings, there's a variety of things. So the board has been tasked with coming up with a solution, whether that's changing zoning, whether that's changing, identifying berthing, etc. But that is our task right now. So for the next year, reimagining the river, which is the new word for moratorium, will be on our agenda. The public is welcome. We will have public outreach meetings as well. And the hope is that at the end of the year, if not sooner, we will have a final plan to submit to the city commissioners.
So do we have any kind of concept as to when we're going to start having those meetings, especially if they're going to be different dates than are already
They probably
scheduled?
aren't going to be different dates because the difficulty is that's been expressed to us is that because sunshine laws, if we have a meeting, the public has to be included, there has to be a court reporter, etc. That's all fine. What was suggested is we use the days for our scheduled meetings and simply start earlier, stay later, carve out.
So we need to stop having so many other wonderful presentations, but they take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take that as an official, let's get out of here. But
You're welcome.
it did grow. So
That was a little blunt.
Barry, thank you. Barry's made a very good point, that the moratorium should not technically start until we have the survey. We're not gonna tell the town to stop. What is the timeframe?
Yeah, so it's in Public Works is where the trying to pick out who's going to do the actual survey itself.
There's an update.
You know, patients.
So yeah, I'll give Robert an update. Now our new project
Yes.
happened today.
Good.
So just to let you know, I've reached out to the vendors. They update their bids and just gonna put it in and we're gonna work this order to get it done. Yeah, what's that? Just took some time.
Yeah, can we get them to do a KML or KMZ file that?
Send Andrew an email, exactly what you're looking for. I'll ask them. I I heard what you were saying.
Yeah. Sure, no problem. Yeah.
What's a guesstimate to a final product?
Well, as far as the city's concerned, I can't control what the vendors, what they said. But particular person that's the low bid is somewhere up in Vera. We don't know what any kind of motivation or whatever they want to do. Imagine it's gonna be a small boat. But I would say that would get the sounds like a long time. Work will be done to get everything. Once we accept a vendor, then they've got to provide us with paperwork, W-9s. We have to become a registered insurance and all that. That makes sense too. Anyways, at least today the ball has been lateral.
I believe that, I mean, once we get once there's a purchase order, it won't take the company very long at all, like a matter of days.
Based on the prices of that, yes.
Days.
So, so Barry's concern, and rightfully so, is that we don't want to engage, have this thing finalized by the city and find us waiting 6 months for the bathymetric study. It sounds like it's gonna happen quickly, so I guess we can roll the dice and proceed. So I don't think.
I mean, honestly, we have June, July, August, we're off. Then we start back up in September. So next month is when it's approved, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So we start June now, we have till June next year.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a July meeting and some in June and then August.
There's no August meeting.
Yeah, so I'm saying no August meeting anyway, so. But I agree, I think if we need to focus on this, we need to do this, I'd probably start an hour early. Because once we stop, have the meeting, that's our normal meeting, then we can pick it up after the end. I mean, we love these presentations, they're great, but yeah, we've made a focus on doing this thing and we need to have as many meetings as we need to.
Yeah, just
Get it correct.
well, one thing, I mean, as you heard, like with the Coast Guard, the relationship with the Marine Industry Association, and Coast Guard is great. And so, patience and we've been talking to them, for a long time about the river and on the river. And there is a committee, now formed, through the Marine Industry Association. So the Marine industry will be bringing, suggestions to the board, as well. So, and it's debater.
You guys have most.
Yeah, you guys keep talking about this big barn.
I'm sorry.
The barge, you guys keep talking about why. So yeah.
There's an FPL barge. Yeah. Somebody want to explain what the FPL barge is?
So why does it have to come?
Yeah.
Well, there's
Yeah, well, no, about once every 2 years, FPL needs to exchange equipment. Only way they can get it up to the FPL plant is by barge. The barge is 50 feet wide, 150 feet long. It's 150 feet long. You got a tug on the front that's 30 feet long, a tug on the back that's 30 feet long. So you have an object that's 210 feet long, 50 feet wide, you have to get up the river. Now that's once every 2 years for FPL. Now, that doesn't account for any construction of the river because.
No barge.
I'm sorry?
No barge.
Certainly. There was
Yeah, they do.
yeah, Bradford Marine had a barge 150 feet long, 50 feet wide up there.
But you want to take
Right. Well,
property owner.
well,
You guys are gonna have a ton of kickback.
right.
Barge and tow combination that I used to use, and they still have it in use, it's 166 feet, the barge and the tug. That I used to have to push up the river to the point where it got so crowded in the river, now we have steel towing has to take the barge stuff up.
Nobody will take any.
When you say take homeowners' rights, what are you under the impression?
You guys are trying to.
We're not getting rid of, well, first of all, if somebody has an existing lift, dock, etc., it exists.
What about going forward?
So I'll answer for myself. I'm not answering for the board. if you buy a piece of property that's 50 feet of frontage and you buy it with the understanding that you've seen what your neighbor has done, and you could buy that property and think you could put out a 75-foot boat perpendicular to the seawall, I'm not sure where that business plan comes from. We always would park parallel. Somewhere along the lines, we allowed waivers to totally get out of control. I used the term draw a line in the sand. At some point, we had to stop it because I don't necessarily care about that barge that has to go up every year and a half, but I sure as hell care about the Bradford people that go up every single day, and Jimmy Steele and Courtney Day and everybody else who does this. And so what we're trying to do is we're not trying to sell short the residents' ability to build a dock. What we're trying to do is preserve what John Kelly has referred to as the artery to the heart. And if we cut this off, guys, we're in serious trouble. So we're not trying to change what happened before. We're just trying to prevent future problems from occurring. What rights do they?
Yeah, so here, let me just say, give you a comment, is that the waterway now is not federally controlled. The Miami River is federally controlled now because they had the same issue, down there. So with the access to the marinas, if it stops, which it's not going to, the alternative for us coming up with a solution that everyone can agree with, that the property owners and the marine industry can agree with, is key, because the alternative is to have the river federally controlled. Then it takes any decision-making from us, City of Fort Lauderdale citizens, away from us. And that could make it where there's no boats, allowed on many parts of the river. And that would not be our decision,
But to do that, the commission would have to relinquish the rights
Yes.
of that. And that would be also a vote, so we're clear.
Yeah,
on
so it
everybody
put, well over
Commission would
100,000
have to put
people
that
out of
as a
work,
vote on that.
to do that too. So put
To
100,000
me, I think
people
that's
out of work.
dangerous to do, to
Yeah.
give them.
It's
the
very
federal-
dangerous. So but that's the fallback.
The marine industry, I think.
So
will
it's
suffer.
why,
Because eventually
why we
they-
want to do this through this board, through the City of Fort Lauderdale,
Yeah.
and have an agreement and everybody speak up and talk about it, what it is. Because this is the
Because they
best way
could
to do it.
regulate what size boat period comes up there.
So it's really important to stress that we have a moratorium that's being finalized in the city commission. The board is moving forward with the concept of reimagining. But we are doing nothing. Nothing gets finalized. You and everybody else has a say. So we really appreciate it, and we will have future meetings. And be assured that your comments are well appreciated. I don't know the answer yet. I know we're working on it, and we take things, like you say, very seriously. We're not trying to sell away a stakeholder or resident's right. But again, there's a big picture here that we all need to be cognizant of. So we'll keep everybody abreast of future meetings, and we certainly look forward to you presenting again.
Yeah, and one key thing is the moratorium is only for waivers, not for what you're allowed to do. So you're allowed to still do whatever you're allowed to do by law now, or by code, now. No, you can do that.
Just like tonight, our presentation on that, Riva went over 30 feet. They went to 30 feet. Structure is allowed for 25.
Yeah.
So we approved that they get 7 more feet. That's the waiver specifically. It's
You
not
can build
for
a dock, you could do everything by right that you're allowed to do. So when you say
By
we
code.
take away your right, when you say we're taking away your right, you can build exactly what the code says.
Yeah.
If you come to us for a waiver, that's where you have a problem. So we are not taking away anybody's rights.
Explain what a waiver is. Where you're gonna go beyond.
Right,
the
yeah, if you're allowed to have
code.
30%, if you're allowed to have 30%, you come here to say, I want 35%. And so that's what the moratorium is you can't ask for 35. You can only ask for what you're allowed to for now. That's all it is.
And you wouldn't come here.
Yeah, you don't need.
Yeah, you don't come.
Yeah, you don't have to ask.
So you don't need to. Correct, but still, papers like people that extend.
The waiver
But a
is
waiver
never
allows, waiver only is for beyond 30%. So that leaves 40% in the middle, 60% in the middle of the river for navigation. So if you go beyond 30%, you're gonna come here for a waiver. It's not a right.
It's not a right.
Because you're gonna grasp there's circumstances that allow that. For example, this guy that was here tonight, waterway up by that river, York News Park is 100 or 230 feet wide. And he's asking for 8 feet. There's no impedance to navigation.
That was his waiver.
That was his waiver.
But he could have built the 25 feet without the waiver. He never had to show up to us, just go through building department.
The moratorium on waivers notwithstanding, I heard a key word that kind of hurt me, and that's rezoning. Are you talking about rezoning New River? We're not talking about, because the reason that my concern is if you're gonna reimagine the New River, okay? When you reimagine the New River, you have to think in terms of the future and boats that are going to be on New River in the future. And let's not forget that vessels docked behind residential properties are significant economic impact in the state. So I thought I heard somebody say something about rezoning and what when you.
So first of all, there's a P and Z part. We are not.
Right.
So we don't change zoning. We talk about code, current code as you shared. And I appreciate that. Jimmy does as well, because apparently we need to do a better job educating folks as to what's really going on here. So,
But there's no, I
It's not-
understand.
So when we talk about code, so current code, we know we refer to a 25% rule, 30% rule. Number one, we're gonna clearly outline exactly what we can do. There's some ambiguity with 25%, 30 feet, 30%, so we're gonna clarify that. We talk about zoning, that's an incorrect term. We don't have nothing to do with zoning. What we talked about doing is, if you look at that map up there and you see the various areas, and as Bob Frank's video showed, there's areas on the river, particularly farther west, where it's really narrow. So the fact is, maybe we call it code, whatever it may be, maybe we have to change the regulations to different areas. But it's not zoning. So if you have an area, as an example, your canal is 60 feet across, we probably can't allow the same thing we can with the 300. So we haven't done anything. So that's all we're talking about, is being sensitive to the fact that not every place is the same.
So, I'm sorry, I have one question and possibly one suggestion. So I've attended meetings for the last few months. But, you know, we're talking about barges, we're talking about big yachts and make firms that are going up there. Like I said, I've attended meetings the last 3 or 4 months. But the people that I don't see these meetings regarding this is Jim Steele, Courtney Day, Larry Atchison, Josh Kerrigan, owners of all the towing companies. And I'm just wondering if they've given the board any kind of input or experience, because honestly, nothing, I mean, other than water taxi guys, nobody's gonna know the river better than those guys.
Yeah, so they do attend the Main Street, the navigation committee. Yeah, so that was.
Jim Steele provided one of the first videos that we got. Courtney Day has provided, and his daughter Haley, endless amounts of data. So one of the things, and again, there's a sunshine law here, but we try to stay in touch with Court and Jim Steele and basically all of the contractors on that side. There's an email chain, and ask you guys to sign up. So you don't see it because it can't be that transparent. The fact is, they've all been invited tonight. Jim Steele, Courtney Day, have all received personal invitations. So they were excited.
The water taxi part of the board.
Bill Walker's part of the board, unfortunately couldn't be here, safe to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all over. And we're not operating a vacuum selfishly, as you said, those guys know much more.
Like I said, I was totally US. I spent 7.5 years on that river. And yeah, I definitely agree with the board as far as putting a lot of pinch points. I can tell you that our blood pressure went up every time we had to go up near certified diesel. Especially with something that you're cruising by with insulin. But my understanding is that as far as moving the boats and try to get a bigger channel is primarily, not solely, but primarily for this FPL barges every 2 years.
So one thing is that I actually just thought of in this explanation is that rather, you're allowed to do whatever there is to code right now. Moratorium is for waivers. May come down to that there's areas, pinch points, along the river where you can't get a waiver. That's that you can't even attend them. Where it's exceptionally narrow. What happened was just by the launching of the school, where both started parking perpendicular. There were waivers that were asked for the Dalton Highlands to put out the basin. There's no enforcement of, they say I'm gonna put a 60-foot boat, I want a 45-foot Dalton Highland 50 feet out from that. It gives you the potential of putting a 90-foot, 100-foot boat out. Who's to say I'm not gonna get it. So it creates a gauntlet, and right there, if every boat was stacked up. If you wanted to turn that into a marina areas, just lined up with storage of great big yachts in there. Do that, and you could close down the marinas that are from the west. Well, but there will be different areas in Florida, it's a different area. Together. So, but overall, it's stopping the waivers, the exceptions. Not a lifetime. Patience.
And one of the things that's important to understand is to code without coming to this board. There is a suggestion that there's going to be a 25-foot dock at the end of the report.
Well, it's not a pass, it's right, do that, by a code, he can go do it, doesn't have to go anybody.
We didn't take it away.
What is right is.
Little king.
It impedes safe navigation.
They can't do. Oh, boy, yeah, they.
Anyway, let's back on track. So you are welcome. And look, you guys just touched on something really important points. We keep using the term education. We are living and breathing moratorium, reimagining New River, et cetera. And we're assuming the public is aware of it. We're not contacting the public properly. We're not informing you. So for that, I appreciate it, and we're going to do a better job of that. But I assure you, the last thing we're going to do is take away anybody's rights. Because we all live here, guys. We want the same thing you want. So we're not doing anything. We're working together, and I promise you the outcome is going to be very, very positive. Anybody else before we chip out? May I have a motion?
Motion to close. Second.
Frank, everybody in agreement? Aye. Thank you very much.